Hi folks, it's Andy. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Welcome to this episode of Kendo Video Feedback. In these videos, basically what I do is I take footage that you wonderful channel viewers have sent in. We watch it together and I try to give you some feedback and hopefully it's beneficial to everybody involved. So we've got 3 videos to look at today. So quite a few. I think it's 3 submissions and actually it's a total of 4 videos. One sent me 2 videos and we're going to look at them both. It's a good mix of Jigeko, Shiai and Grading. This is kind of cool. We're going to jump to them in just a minute. Before we do, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment using the word Kendo. You know the YouTube magic. And most importantly, support the channel by shopping at KendoStar.com. Okay. Okay, let's have a look at this first one. So let me read the message that came with it. It says, good afternoon. I recently recorded this keiko with one of our sensei, who is Yondan and starting on the left, as part of my preparation for Sandan exam in the new year. We spent a lot of time in this session working on semi and footwork approach to the attack, so there's a few things I'm doing differently, but I'd appreciate if you could take a look at and let me know if there's anything that needs change for the next few months before I try the exam. Okay, so you are on the right-hand side of this video. You've submitted to us before. I do remember this beautiful door. So this is Jigeko with the preparation for third dan. All right. So I'm going to look at this from the point of view of if I was sat on the grading panel. Not saying I will be or would be, but if I was sat on the grading panel, are you going to be the, candidate that I'm going to pass or not? All right. Now, before I press play, I'm going to tell you what I'm looking for as a third dan grading panelist. All right. This is what I'm looking for. It doesn't mean that's what all of the panelists are looking for, but I very much base my criteria on the International Kendo Federation's and the All Japan Kendo Federation's guidelines for grading panelists, all right? And that tells us to judge first dan to third dan on the basics of Kihon, all right? Mastery of Kihon, all right? Are you performing the basics of Kendo? Are your strikes able to be considered valid Yuko Datotsu? Are you making strikes with good Kentai no Ichi? And have you got a grasp of a variety somewhat of a variety of kendo techniques? All right, that's basically what I'm going to be looking at. Now, you've mentioned you're working on semi and stuff like that. I'm not going to really look at that as an examiner. All right, I'm going to look at it in this video because you mentioned it, right? But as an examiner at third dan, I'm not really going to put too much emphasis on how effective your semi is into your opponent. All right, I'm more looking at the literal technical aspects of kendo that's presented. All right, but let's have a look. Okay. You're on the right hand side here. Okay, so far so good. Good posture, good okay, good neho, good sonkyo, good posture for your kamae. Okay, so far happy with this. I'm not sure if it's like sweat marks on your kendogi or if it's faded in that way. But I would recommend, and you're not going to pass or fail based on this, all right, but I would recommend not using this kendogi in your grading. From some points of view of chakuso, right, your menhimo is tied a little bit low. It wants to be tied at your eye line, all right? It's a little bit hard for us Westerners sometimes. I struggle with it as well because the back of our head is a bit rounded, so it tends to slip down, but you have to try to get around that, all right? Now, from this angle, all right, I'm not as keen on your kamae, okay? Now, it's not pass or fail stuff, all right? But you're not really utilizing your lower body as well as you could be, okay? Your hips are pushed too far forward. If you look, there's a slight diagonal, like I could draw a diagonal line on your door and it would be slightly like tilting back like that because your hips are pushed too far forward. So we're making this slight S shape. All right. I want to see you straighten your left knee slightly. Okay. But not in the way that would put your heel on the ground. In fact, your heel wants to be kind of raised a bit more. In other words, you need to shift your balance, your weight balance a little bit so that your hips come back, all right? And so that, because here, your head is here and your hips are slightly in front of your head, all right? If I was to draw a circle, right, of the same size directly over your head and your hips, the hips one will be slightly in front, and they want to be kind of on the same plane, all right? Okay, so this kote strike is good, but the kime and zanshin is bad, all right? I see what you mean by the semi and the setup, all right? I can recognize that, I can see that. It's good, and that's led to a pretty successful datoto here, all right? All right, I think you might have missed the target a little bit, but it doesn't matter, right? It's good, all right? But then you stop dead, okay? You stop dead. So there's no like proper kime and there's no zanshin, all right? So you need to keep your feet moving more after striking. Kote, even with this dekote, it's on the spot, bam, this way. Then move slightly to your right so that you're not gonna clash into your opponent. Keep your eyes on your opponent this way. Kote! And kamae, okay? Needs to look more complete. So I'm going to bring this up. I know it's a controversial one, and not everyone's going to agree with me, but I'm going to bring it up. It's not the first time I've brought it up. I'm going to let it go, and I wouldn't fail you only on this basis, all right? I wouldn't fail you only on this basis, but for Yondan I probably would. This strike's great, okay? Strike's fantastic. Good job, all right? But then we have this situation here, all right? And I just, like, this is keiko now. This is taijin geiko, it's called in Japanese, with another person, all right? Against another person. It's not the kihon geiko ichikomi, all right? So there's no good or valid reason. Now, we're only one step past, so I'll forgive that. But now, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the connection between you and your partner is cut, all right? And it for me, it's like a minus point in regards of zanshin, all right? Because it's not really what, like, accomplished. And this is why I hesitate to find the right word, really. But once you're, let's say, accomplished, I think is probably an accurate word. For third dan, you have to be accomplished at basic kendo, and I feel like this is like a little bit lower level than that. When you go, man, like that, like you would in ichikomi, yeah. I want to see more awareness and more connection with the opponent, so that your zanshin is carried through. All right, so it's not man like this, but man, he might pass once, but turn this way. Keep that connection, right? If you do some Mitori Geiko on this, you'll come to understand what I mean. Because then you end up with this miles away situation as well. Not great. I have no issue if you're doing a hikiwaza, right? But there's an issue here, isn't there? Obviously, after a failed attack, that you lose composure. All right. So, and it's not. I mean, it's not necessarily like mental composure. It's like physical composure. Yeah. So your footwork's not accurate. Yeah. So you find yourself off balance a little bit. It becomes a little bit disjointed. That's not going to be something I would fail you directly on this point. Now, I have no issue with this hikimen. In fact, I value this hikimen. I think it's good, but there's no fumikomi. All right, there's no fumikomi. So for me, that's a problem. All right, I like that you're using it, but for sandan, I want to see a fumikomi here. All right, I want to see a fumikomi here. Whereas If this was Shodan Nidan, I'd probably let it slide a bit. Again, I'm not going to fail you on this point alone, but it's not... Look, let me tell you something, right? Just before I go on, because I've realized the way it's sounding might be wrong, and I think this is a misconception with gradings, all right? I don't think that when you do a grading, it doesn't matter what Dan grading, whether it's first Dan or seventh Dan. I can't talk about eighth Dan, I've not tried it yet, but I don't think it's a case of like, you're not, the panel is not or should not be looking for like trapdoors or pitfalls, all right? Oh, they just did that, fail, all right? I don't think it's a case of that, right? For me, it's a case of looking for, if we can put it into an analogy, I'm looking for positive points, all right? I'm looking for positive points that's going to take you over the threshold to get you through the exam, to put the circle on the paper, all right? Now, there's going to be some issues that stop you accruing further points, all right? Let's say you're going for Sandan and you can't do any aspect of Himikomi. This isn't you, by the way. I'm just saying as example. You've got no aspect of Kentai no Ichi, whatever, right? That's gonna stop you accruing enough points to get over, all right? It's not a case though that it's like, okay, this grading was perfect, but then he did one Hikimen and he didn't have a good Fumikomi on it, so we're going to have to fail him. I don't think that's how it works, or at least how it should work, all right? That's not how I would assess a grading candidate, all right? And I think we have this issue where we often attribute one specific point to like, oh, don't do that or you'll fail, or I failed because I did this specific action. You know, in my experience, generally, if you don't manage to get over the line, if you don't manage to get through and pass the exam, it's not because of one specific thing. You know, and I've heard all sorts of things, you know, oh, I failed because I did a kaishido, or because I did a hikiwaza, or whatever, all right? Now, there's things that if we take this point, and it's not, I'm being very broad when I say this analogy of scoring enough points to get over. In other words, I'm looking for, do you meet the criteria? Not, how can I find what doesn't meet the criteria? If that makes sense, right? It doesn't say, you know, the guidelines don't say, don't do this. It says, do this. All right. So I'm looking for, are you doing this? I'm not looking, well, if he did that. So, you know, obviously there's stuff you shouldn't do, right? You shouldn't be disrespectful. You shouldn't break the rules of Kendo, stuff like that. Yeah. But we're looking to see, are you meeting the criteria, right? So when I talk about these points, it's a very broad sense, and it's a rough analogy I'm pulling off the top of my head, yeah? So I'm not saying, oh, you need to score X number of points, but there are actions or things that will score you more metaphorical points to help you get over the grading, you know, get through the grading. You know, so for me, for third Dan, you need to have Kikentai no Ichi. You need to have good, complete waza that meets the criteria of Yuko Datotsu. So far, you're mostly doing that. I've got a couple of issues with your Zanshin, all right, which is costing you some points, all right? If your Zanshin was better, you would have you know, a higher chance to pass. The other thing I'm starting to wanting to see from you to get you more points to help you get over that line is I want to see a little bit more of a variety of waza now. Now the hikiwaza is good, but it's not technically great. Yeah, I'd really like to see some kind of orji waza if we can get one or two. I'd like to see that you understand that those waza exist, because at the minute we're doing lots of just straight off shikake waza. Now you did a debana kote, which was good, but again it was kind of a little bit spoiled by poor Zanshin. So let's see how we carry on. But like I say, I know I've rambled on this a little bit, but I think it's a really important point. This isn't a case of, and the point I'm going to just restate is, it's not a case of somebody fails the third Dan grading, fourth Dan grading, second Dan grading, sixth Dan grading because they did X, all right? It's not because you did X, it's usually because you didn't do Y. Does that make sense? So that's I hope that's relevant. Good, this is much better. Okay, much better. You're a bit stiff after hitting, all right? And this is just general feedback, all right? This is okay, all right? This is your arms become a little bit stiff after hitting. I'd like you to see your upper body relax a little bit more the moment after you strike, but this isn't pass or fail stuff. This is positive points for you here. This is you getting yourself through your third dan. I much prefer this continuation of the N, the connection with your opponent, all right? I think the semi thing and the footwork thing's working out well. I think you're doing a good thing with it, all right? But I'd love to see you. I'd love to see some kind of Ojuaza now. You pull some Ojuaza out in the next 30 seconds. It's big circle for me, all right? Almost, all right, okay. So we saw one there, all right? We saw one there. So you've passed from my point of view now, all right? You've passed from my point of view. Your men team are a bit long though. I think give them a measure. They've got to be less than 40 centimeters when they're tied, all right? And what I'm saying about this Ojuaza, by the way, I just thought you go for a Kotenuki men, right? And what I'm saying that it wasn't a successful, it wasn't a great perfect ippon, no problem. But what you're doing at least is you're showing me that you know that that waza is a thing. You know, when you're attempting to put it into practice. I want you to take another step back here from Tsubazeriai, all right? See, here you come to Tsubazeriai, fine. Then you take one step back whilst your partner just keeps going back. You need to take another step back here, all right, to make sure you're well within the current rules, all right? I appreciate grading isn't Shiai, but the rules don't exist only for the sake of Shiai, all right? So, yeah. If we can get a bit more variation of your waza, I think it's going to be a much easier game for you as well. I mean, like, I don't think you're going to have a real problem if you perform like you are here. But we're seeing a lot of step in men, or step in kote. You know what I mean? So like this sort of thing. So this interaction here, once you come to this Tsubazeriai action, there needs to be a distinctive separation. All right, because Kendo starts from here, all right? It doesn't start from here. It starts from here, okay? Kendo always starts from here. Yeah, it's here. Then this is where we get to, and then the game starts, all right? And it's already started here is what I just said. But I mean, you know, but that's when things are on. You don't start doing ya here. You don't begin your interaction here. There's a step before that, all right? So once you get to this part, make sure you get that proper separation and it comes from your side as well as the other side. So you know and you demonstrate you understand that aspect of Kendo as well. Your men's strikes are great, okay? Your men's strikes are great. There's no issue with them. I'm just skipping ahead, so because it's quite a long video. But I want to. Okay, good. Harai men. Okay, nice little different waza there. But it is starting to look a little bit samey. Granted, your Sandan grading is going to be like, I mean, I know what country you're in, so probably it's going to be like 2 minutes or something. But really, it should be like 60 seconds, right? It should be like 60 seconds. Hopefully that's what it'll be. But it depends, all right? But it's not going to be like 4 minutes like this video. But there's a lot of this, you see, there's just a lot of this, right? Step in, men, all right? Okay, and it's great. The men's strikes are great. I've seen it. Cool, yeah? I really want to see some more Ojuaza from you, if I'm honest. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to work. I just want to see that you're doing it, all right? I get it though, because you got your partner's senior. They're probably not as, they're a little bit more reluctant to fire attacks out at you, but they are doing right. And we've got that step in and hit again. You know, in a grading situation especially, right? A grading situation especially, the other side wants to hit as well, all right? So, you know, so, yeah, I mean, I'm not even talking from a grading point of view now. I'm just saying that overall, over this whole sort of 4-minute interaction, this step in men, it's got a little bit repetitive, all right? So what I'm seeing now is that there's a kind of pattern in your Kendo that's very, very linear. Do you know what I mean? So there's lots of ways to hit men. You don't have to just step in and hit men. You can come to distance, slowly creep in there, and then it suddenly, bam. Or you can use your Shiai differently, you know, and I've seen you've done like Harai men and Katsugi men, stuff like that. That's fine, yeah. But what I'm seeing is this one's overly common. Do you know what I mean? So overall, it's just a little bit linear, like I say, a little bit samey. I'd love to see more variety out of you. Like I say, at Sandan, you need to be accomplished in lots of different, not lots of different waza, but you need to be accomplished in the basics of Kendo, okay? The Kihon, all right? So, look, you perform like that, all right, for the most part, in your grading. For me, that's a pass, all right? It's a pass. But you can strengthen that probability. You can raise that probability of making sure that that circle gets put on the paper, all right? By, like I say, improving those positive points that you need to display. Let's see a little bit more variety of waza, all right? And let's see a little bit sharpened up zanshin, all right? And let's sort out that kamae a little bit more as well. Push those hips back, all right? And you'll find that your waza is easier to execute, okay? But great job. Thank you for sending in. I think I think you're definitely on the right track. I don't think you'll have too much issue. Okay, next one. Next one says, hi, Vish Sensei. I hope you're doing well. I've been following your YouTube channel since November 2024. Thank you very much. It's about a year now. I practiced at home for about 3 months, especially from Zero to Shodan series, to understand whether Kendo was right for me, as I'm 34 years old this year, before joining my dojo in February 2025. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's what it exists for. All right. I could do with updating Zero to Shodan a little bit, but it's still, overall, it's pretty decent stuff in there. So that's why I wanted to make it. This November, I participated in my first tournament as well as my first Q grading. I had 3 Shiai matches on the same day with 2 wins and 1 loss. That's great news. But I was only able to record my second match. I'd like to kindly ask if you'd share any feedback on my performance. Here's a video of my Shiai. I'm the one wearing the white Tasuki. And then here is my IQ grading Jitsuki. I'm on the right side for both bouts. So yeah, okay, you're on the right hand side, that's fine. You also sent me a video of your kata grading, but we're not going to look at that, all right, because I've got another submission to look at as well. And you said as well it's not great footage. So let's just watch your Shiai and your Jitsuki, okay? I think that's going to be of more interest. Okay, so we're starting with your Shiai. Which side? You said you were the white Tasuki, all right? Okay. Let's have a look. So this side here. Okay, this isn't on YouTube, so it's slightly different controls, but okay. So let's get off from the beginning. All right. So I like this. I like you stand up, get straight to it. You make a good strike. All right. You don't quite reach the target, but it's good. Your Fumikomi is good. Your Kentai no Ichi is good. This is excellent stuff so far for the level that you're at. But I can see you've got a little bit of tension in your right hand, and it's evident when you come to here, right? See how your arms go over your head, and your Shiai goes to the right like this. Goes to the right like this, yeah? So instead of meh like this, it's to the right like this, all right? Because your right hand's dominant, okay? So keep an eye on that for me, yeah? Your menhimo too long. You need to cut your menhimo. When you tie your menhimo, the loops and the strings need to be the same length, and it all needs to be less than 40 centimeters. Okay, it all needs to be less than 40 centimeters. Got a video on the channel about how to cut them. Get them cut down because they're too long. It looks a bit messy, okay? All right, so I appreciate the experience level we're dealing with here. And for the level that you're at, 1 year into Kendo, you're doing super, super well. Now, to get even better, you see when you come to Tsubazari like this, you don't want to walk, all right? You don't want to be walking. See how your feet sort of just walk around? You want to keep your Kendo footwork so that you can do Hikiwaza whenever you need to, all right? That's part one. Point one, sorry. Oh, men, good men. Very good men there, all right? So, fantastic timing for men. Really, really good. Very impressive, all right? Especially at your level, okay? After hitting, try not to bounce up too much, all right? Because you're bouncing up and your momentum is coming back, all right? So you end up jumping up and down like this when you want to drive forward, okay? Bam, drive forward, turn so you keep your eyes on them. You're turning all right, I think. Yeah, this is fine, but it's not hopping up and down like this. You want to be bam, yeah? Try not to bounce up and down, all right? It's because when you hit, you're coming up this way, all right? You see what I mean about these men himo, yeah? Super long. Your knees are probably a little bit too bent, which is probably why you're jumping up and down, okay, when you hit, all right? So straighten up a little bit. They don't want to be locked straight, but they want to be a bit straighter, all right? Yours are quite bent, so which is probably why when you leap to strike, you do this sort of jump. Good chance, but not quite in, was it? The problem as well also with bending knees like that is you make yourself shorter, okay? And also, here's another thing, right? After hitting, it's all right for the Shiai to come up. It's kind of natural, yeah? But what you don't want to do is you don't want it to be behind you. All right, you don't want it to be behind you. As much as possible, you want to keep your hands and the Shiai in front of you, all right? In front of you. This puts you in a very weak position, all right? It makes the strike look weak as well. Yeah, I can see that you kind of get to a position, then you drop down by a couple of centimeters like that as you bend your knees, all right? So that's something you want to look at. I can see your right hand is controlling the Shiai here as well, not your left hand, all right? The way the Shiai is moving it's evident that the Shiai is moving from the right hand, not from the left. Okay, that was a good man. That was a good man. You didn't quite reach the target. But at this level, it's perfectly acceptable to consider it ippon. And I think that if this had been driven forward in a... Can I slow this down? I can slow it down. Let's see. Right. So I don't know how long it's going to take to get to the point I'm talking about. But because we're kind of... we're bent down like this and then we're jumping up, right? We're not really able to fully extend to hit, okay? Which we're going to see, I think, in about 10 minutes when we're ready to actually... I've started this a bit too early. But, okay, so here it comes, all right? So can you see how, you've dipped down and now you're launching up, all right? Whereas what you want is you want to be your knees to be a bit straighter so that you can launch straight forward, all right? Okay. Okay, all right. So you've hit the target well, actually. You've hit the target well, all right? So I take it back, all right? I take it back. It's a brilliant strike, all right? But from here, you see how you now go down and then up, going like this, right? Which is not what you want. You want to drive forward, all right? Not bowl them over, all right? You need to be in good control of your footwork so that you can maneuver, keep them in your vision, and take good zanshin, okay? But here, because you end up like this, you can end up in an awkward position, all right? Now, if your opponent was like a lot bigger than you or heavier than you or something like that, this would result in like a really difficult situation where you'd end up like stuck against them. You wouldn't be able to move. You'd end up pushing against each other. It'd all be very ugly. All right. So if we can sharpen up that footwork a little bit, then 100% it's all going to come together a little bit more smoothly. All right. And we don't want this jumping with the shinai out to the side. Okay. But great job. Great Shiai there. Very well done. Very well done. Okay, so let's now have a look at your IQ grading. All right, your IQ grading. Now I'm just going to recheck your email because you said that you're on the so you're on the right hand side here. Okay, so let's have a quick look. Okay, good. Look, it's fine. But EQs is fine. All right, it's a little bit excited, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like you don't need to hit as many times as possible, right? So you could chill a bit, right? When you go for shodan, you can chill a bit, all right? But you know, you're doing the good strikes with Fumikomi. This jumping bit needs fixing, all right? Especially with the shinai going out to the right, and that's because your right hand's doing most of the work. And yeah, those himo need cutting. But yeah, I mean, for AQ, this is fine, all right? For shodan, right? Okay, I found one. Good. Okay, so this is mostly fine, but here when you hit kote, this is all right. But then for some reason you bring your hands up over your head again. You don't bring your hands over your head after hitting kote, all right? And they stay out in front of you, all right? And you use your footwork better, all right? So I don't. Okay. Like, how are you not like dying of like exhaustion here? It's fine for EQ, but I'm like for shodan, you're gonna have to calm this off a little bit, all right, and demonstrate your waza, all right, okay. What you've shown us is that you can make strikes with a good semblance of Kikentai no Ichi and Fumikomi, okay, good. That's enough to get you through EQ. But for shodan, want to see you demonstrate your waza. All right, so doesn't have to be a lot of different waza, doesn't have to be anything complicated. And I'm impressed that you're not just doing men strikes, which is what most people do. All right, it's good. All right, but when you get for shodan, you know, it's looking a bit messy, right? It's looking a bit messy. One of the things I think is a bit of a skill in kendo is there's two aspects of kendo, right? There's your training, and then there's kendo as it's perceived from the outside, all right? And that's very important because on the one hand, we have our own keiko, right? And that's obviously like the core aspect of our kendo. But the feedback we get on our kendo, whether that's from the senseis that we practice with, or whether that's from the results of our grading or the results of our shiai, is dependent on our kendo as it's perceived from the outside, all right? So if you watch the best kendoka in the world, like one of the things that they're very, very good at, I don't think it's an intentional skill that they necessarily train. I think it comes naturally through their mastery of kendo, but they have an ability to present their kendo in the sense of it being observed by a third party, all right? So they're very good at presenting their waza, all right? So it's not just a mess of stuff, right? The good shiaisha, right? The good people, the good competitors, it's not just all about throwing as many attacks in until one lands, yeah? They craft the waza and they present it to the shimpan, all right? So it's easy for them to be awarded. And the shinsa is the same, right? And in other words, I often talk about how Kendo techniques have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that kind of ties into it. So in other words, right, how your Kendo is perceived by a third party is an important aspect, all right? So I know we're talking at EQ level here, and next we're going to be looking at Shodan, but this is where you need to start thinking about it, right? Okay, so is this just a whole mess of waza that I'm presenting here, or am I making an effort to put my waza on display or present my waza to the grading panel or to the shimpan? All right, that's the kind of progression you need to start to make. All right, I know it seems complicated. It seems like a big ask, but it comes naturally through Keiko and experience. But if you can understand that concept exists, then I think you might benefit. Okay. See what we have here. We just have a whole like. Okay, and it's never good if you knock someone over in your grading. All right, it's never good. All right, it's not going to fail you or not, but I want you to just realize that that's due to your poor technique. All right. Some people can fall over and it can be part of their poor technique. There's, could be slippery or whatever. That can be a thing. It can be a thing, right? But if you bump into them, here what happened is you were doing this jump up thing as your hands came up, you hit into them and they sort of lost balance, all right? So that's because we haven't got our footwork sharp. We've got too much right hand and we're doing this bouncing up thing, all right? So that's what we need to sort of get fixed, all right? You're getting a bit overexcited, I think. You know what I mean? Okay, so that's the first match. Let's have a look at the second match. Look, it's fine. It's just there's just a bit too much to look at. It's not an endurance test, right? So I don't think you need to show them this much. Once they've seen that you can do it, they're going to be happy. But the issue is, what they're doing here, which is correct, is they're giving everybody the same amount of time. What often happens in the West is, it's not just in the West, but what happens in the West is one of the grading panelists will just decide when they've had enough and tell you to stop. Which is enough by now, right? But that's not what's happening here. What they're doing here is the proper procedure, which is where to keep the correct time so everybody gets the same amount of time. But what that means is you've got to then fill that time with your grading, right? And if you just keep throwing waza out over and over again, like, it's not super sustainable. I mean, you're doing well. You're obviously in good shape. That's fine. But like, as I say, it's a bit ugly, I'm sorry to use that word, but it's a little bit, it's unsightly is probably the better word. All right. Now it's EQ. What do you expect? I'm not expecting something that's I'm not expecting a piece of art. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like I said before, I want to see you present your waza to the panel rather than just bust out as many as you can. All right. So for EQ is fine, but for Shodan, let's have a think about that. All right. Use your kamae. Show what a nice kamae you have. Yeah. You get to your distance and then show your waza good zanshin. Finish. Then next one. All right. Rather than yeah man, kote, yeah man, like this. You know what I mean? Okay. All right. So there we are. And yeah, when you hit kote, you need to figure out why this, like, to stop doing this jumping up and down for a start like this and with your hands over your head, right? Especially after hitting kote is not right. Okay. Like this, right? And is smashing into the other side. Yeah, it's bad footwork. All right. So footwork more accurate, maneuver yourself properly. Yeah. Like this, not up like this, all right? Like this should not happen after a kote strike, all right? Should not happen after a kote strike. Okay, good. Well done. All right, fantastic, Shiai. Good job on getting your EQ. No problem at all. For Shodan, let's calm it down a little bit. Let's think about presenting our Kendo, presenting our waza to the grading panel. Same when you get as you start to do more Shiai, all right? It's not just about how many you can hit in as short a time as possible. Think about those technical aspects, all right? Less jumping up and down, all right? We're hitting forward. No smashing into the other side. Not lifting our hands up this way after we hit Kote, especially keeping the Shinai in front of us for the most part and using a bit less of our right hand. All right? Fantastic job. Well done. And thank you for the submission. Okay, next one. And this looks to be at the same grading. There must have been a big grading. I recognize this place as well. I've never been there, but I've seen it before. I know where it is. So this is different person, just at the same venue. This is, hi Sensei, I hope all is well. I had my Nidan grading yesterday. So this is a Nidan grading. I passed and I was hoping to get some feedback regarding the grading and what could be done to improve for Sandan. So good, we're looking at Sandan one more time. I felt that my footwork and timing were off a lot for my waza because the floor in the venue is unvarnished and my feet were so dry it's very slippery. Yeah, I struggle with those types of floors as well. I felt like I was trying my best not to slip and fall the entire time because I'm a tall individual. I was the fighter on the right-hand side for both Tachiai in the video. Okay, so on your right-hand side. Okay. I look forward to hearing from you regarding this and always remember to shop at KendoStar, people. Thank you very much. Okie dokie. Let's have a look. So you're on the right-hand side, all right? We've got a bit of a slippery floor. Let's see how we get on. Okay, right, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Okay, so your kamae is a little bit arched over. All right, you're a tall guy. You can stand up tall. Okay. Good. Good, 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 good. Yeah, I want you to fix your kamae. Like, you fix your kamae, you'll be like 10% more effective in terms of your semi. All right. I want you to take care, all right, over your chakuso, right? This is a really tiny thing, right? But I'm telling you now, grading panelists look at tiny things, all right? So before you go on to a match for your grading, get someone to check you, all right? Because your menhimo are good, your dohimo are good, but your koshita is off-center. Yeah, it's off-center. Now, you won't be able to see or tell that, so you need someone to check you, all right? It's not a reason in itself to pass or fail you, right? Like, as I said earlier in this video, it's not about looking for something, you know, looking for a trapdoor for you to fall through. It's about looking for, you know, positive points that are going to help you get over the line. So I have got a slight issue with the footwork that's going to help you, you know, when you move to your left, and the same goes when you move to your right. Start with the foot that is on the side you want to move, all right? So don't move the right across like this, all right? It looks weak. It looks weak, all right? And you can't hit from this position, all right? So you don't want to move right and then left. You want to move left and right, okay? So you keep your kamae. It will be much more effective in terms of semi towards your opponent. Okay, it's all right. So look, I think for Nidan, you're pretty much fine. I understand what you said about the floor, but there is a sort of, it's a bit clunky at points, right? It's a bit clunky at points. So I want to see a little bit more smoothness out of your footwork. And again, I'm starting to get hungry now to see a few more different waza. I've seen you do men, I've seen you do kote, I've seen you have a go at kote men, and it was like a kind of aigote men, which we could argue was an orju waza. So you're okay for me, but I'm talking about as we move towards Sandan. All right, I want to see something a little bit more. And I'll tell you what I've just picked up on. I think your grip needs to be improved a little bit, all right? The way you're holding, I'm going to super exaggerate, but the way you're holding is too much like this, and I want you to turn the wrists in towards each other a little bit more, all right? I want you to turn the wrists in a little bit more so that you can use them more effectively to swing the shinai, because what you're doing is you always have to lift the shinai in quite a big motion, which is exposing you to strikes, all right? And they're obviously going to see it coming, all right? Your kakiwaza is pretty good, all right? It's pretty good, but there's a bit of crabbing going on as well now, right? So what I mean by that is you'll make this hit and then you start to kind of crab around him, yeah? I don't want you to smash into him, but your sort of maneuver is starting a little bit early, so it looks like I say, like you're sort of crabbing around. And here's another thing, man. So don't go backwards in Chudan. All right, don't go backwards in Chudan. It looks beginnerish. All right, stay in the Jordan position as you go backwards, man, and come to a finish in Chudan together, rather than man. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, don't go backwards in Chudan. All right, it takes what can I say? Like, if you get rid of that, it will make your kendo look a bit more polished, all right? Yeah, I want to see Ojiwaza from you, all right? I want to see Ojiwaza from you, like a more distinct Ojiwaza. I don't, again, I've said this before, I'm not someone that's saying, in your gradings, I want to see X waza or Y waza. I'm not saying that. I know I did just say that. I said I want to see Ojiwaza, but it's and that is contextual, all right? Because what I'm seeing is just the same thing repeating itself, all right? So for third dan, you calm it down a bit, and we're thinking about presenting the waza to the grading panel, all right? I know this waza, I know this waza, and I know this waza, and I can perform them to this standard, all right? That's essentially what you have to do, okay? So I'm not saying you have to do Ojiwaza, you don't, all right? But you're throwing loads of kakiwaza in here, and not a lot of it is making, making ippon, all right? So I don't want it to be mindless. Now, we're not talking about riai and seme and stuff like that until we get into fourth dan, fifth dan. But at the same time, I don't want you to just be a mindless drone, just going in and hitting, right? This is a great men strike. Right, great men strike here, yeah? But like I say, leave it in Jordan for another couple of steps. If you'd left that in Jordan for another couple of steps and then returned down to Chudan, like, it would just elevate the quality, all right? I might be wrong, but and it might be because you're tall, but I think a lot of tall people do this. I feel like the distance between the feet is often a little bit too close, right? It's not this close, obviously, but because of that, it makes you look like, like unstable. Whereas if they were slightly wider, you would look kind of a little bit more like stable and more intimidating. Okay. This is Nidan, right? We're going for Nidan, right? Okay. I mean, like I say, I think overall I'm probably going to pass you on this with no problem, as obviously the others did. Yeah, nice. But for Sandan, like I say, I just want to see. I just want it to be sharpened up overall. I'd like to see that variety come in, because, like I say, we're just seeing the same thing occur over and over here. All right. I think the key takeaway from today's video, and it's not just yours, your submission here, is this idea of presenting your waza to the grading panel or to the shimpan, all right? Which isn't really what's happening here, right? I can see you're finding the floor slippery. I can see that, but again, I'd like to see this footwork a little bit more accurate, all right? So that we can have that stability and it all looks a little bit more unified and dignified. But going back to what I was saying, I think the theme today and thing to take away from today is this idea of presenting your waza all right, presenting your Kendo, all right? And it doesn't mean like overthinking about it from a party point of view, but that element exists and it is a key aspect of Kendo. Each waza has a beginning, a middle, and an end, all right? And what you are, and the previous one is kind of rushing to, is the middle, all right? And there's not a lot of focus on the beginning and the end, all right? So there's a lot going on that's a little bit unnecessary. Okay? And there we go. Okay? Look, no problem for Nidan at all. None whatsoever. For Sandan, like I say, let's calm it down a little bit. Focus on showing the beginning, showing the strike, and showing the end. All right? Sharpen up that Zanshin. No more going backwards in Chudan. Right? When you move around, move the outside leg first. All right? Maybe widen your stance a little bit. And like I say, let's try to bring in a variety of waza. I'm not saying you have to do Oju waza for Sandan, but what I am saying is you'll score lots of positive points if you do. Okay, you'll score. It's an easy way to get points to get you through the Sandan exam, in my opinion. All right, as long as you do it to a reasonable standard. It doesn't have to be perfect Ippon, but if you can show, I know this waza, I know that waza, I know this waza, all right, I can execute to this level and that level and this level, then you've got more chance of getting over the line, okay? Thank you very much for sending the videos in, everybody that did. If you would like to submit a video for this series, all you have to do is upload the video to YouTube. That's the best way. All right, set it to unlisted. You can put it public if you want, but do not put it private. Email the link to me at mail@kendostar.com and I will feature it on the channel. I feature every single one of these. I think, is this episode 79? No, this is episode 80. I just found out this is episode 80. This is the 80th video. Oh my word. So I do every single one. So if you want to submit a video, send it in to me. All right, shop at KendoStar. See you next time. Bye-bye.